the team that was number 2, the Auburn Tigers, had probably the most impressive win of the day. If you're just talking about simple numbers and in terms of how dominant they were against a team that we all thought was going to be kind of good this year in Ohio State. 91-53 was the final score. Janai Broome played 26 minutes. He finished with 21 points, 20 rebounds, 6 assists, 3 blocks, 9-18 from the floor, 1-3 from 3, and not a single turnover to his name. He was utterly dominant. Auburn was dominant from the jump, from the get-go. They were up by 28 at halftime, which leads me to this question. I know Auburn has a loss, right? They lost at Duke, who is another top 10 team in America. If you were picking right now, who would you rank number 1? And is that the same team that you would buy into if you're picking a potential national champion as of today?
So I had Auburn ranked number 1 last Sunday. But the reason I did was just because I felt like Auburn's resume was far superior to Tennessee's. They've obviously beaten, Iowa State in a neutral. They beat Houston, basically at Houston. They beat Memphis in a neutral, Carolina, nothing, and then obviously today they pound Ohio State by 100. I think now I might put Tennessee ahead of them just because, again, now they have that huge road win against, Illinois wasn't ranked, but we both know, like, they could have been ranked, and then you go to Champaign and you win at State Farm in front of that crowd. That's a really, really impressive victory. So it's close in terms of who I'd rank number 1. I'll say this. I would still probably take Auburn number 1. I would take them number 1 over Tennessee right now. If I were picking a team, to pick one of those two teams to win the whole thing or to go through the NCAA tournament or whatever. I don't know. Something about Auburn, man. There's something about them. They're both tough. Janai Broome, though, is an absolute beast, and I know we'll get into a little bit what he did today. He's just been – they weren't great at Duke, but nobody's great at Duke.
Yeah, I mean, Duke is a really, really good team, and there's a reason why they are as good as they are defensively. What I think is interesting is that when we think of Bruce Pearl teams, and I remember specifically, like Matt McCall talked about this a lot in the offseason, his best teams, Bruce Pearl's best teams, at Auburn, at Tennessee, when he was at Milwaukee, they always had a really dynamic backcourt, and they were kind of built around guards that could go out and score. And what I think has been interesting is there's been a little bit of a shift here, right? This team plays with Janai Broome and Dylan Cardwell starting. They both played 25 minutes tonight, right? Last year it was Janai Broome and Jalen Williams, and Jalen Williams was more of a bigger four than he was like a wing. Before that, it was Walker Kessler and Jabari Smith were together. And you've seen kind of a shift going from we're going to build out our team starting with a dynamic guard and then some big wings and figure it out from there, to we're going to go get ourselves some bigs. We're going to have rim protection. We're going to have size in the middle. We can play through the paint. We're going to have a whole bunch of big athletic wings around them, guys like Chad Baker-Mazzara, guys like Chaney Johnson, guys like Jaheim Hudson, Jakai Howard, like players of that mold, and then we'll figure it out in the backcourt from there and kind of piecemeal it. You see Denver Jones making some impact. Ahad Pettiford has been a game changer in multiple games. Miles Kelly is a shot maker on the perimeter. And it's a little bit of a different roster construction than we've seen in the past. And my concern with them is so much of having a 5-man, and we saw this some with Ryan Kalkbrenner earlier this season, right? We've seen it some with Hunter Dickinson at Kansas. If you can kind of shut off the valve that allows the ball to get to that big guy and find a way to take it away what you want to do offensively to be able to get those sets, to get them touches, you can win games like that. And that's my one concern with Auburn is that, that happened a little bit in the Duke game. They made it a little bit difficult to get the ball into Janai Broome and be able to allow him to get touches. So that's my one concern with them. I do think that Tennessee's guard play is a little bit better. Zakai Ziegler, Chaz Lanier, Jordan Gainey off the bench winning a game on the road. So I don't know. I feel like you're nitpicking no matter where you go with this. They're clearly.
No, I don't think you're nitpicking. I think you have a great point. Which is, again, Tennessee's strength is in its perimeter play, where Auburn's
Mhm.
strength is probably up front. Now, I think Auburn can get a lot better because of Pettiford in that. I think he's the key to their team. And if he is so electric, man, he is so much fun to watch. He's so fearless. And they've got Miles Kelly. And I think Chad Baker-Mazar is a really, really tough matchup. I guess what I'm trying to say is I think Auburn can play in different ways, but Bruce Pearl loves Dylan Cardwell. They call him Cap because he brings the toughness, the defense, the leadership, vocal, all that. So he wants him on the court. But I do think in certain matchups, that's the beauty of this Auburn team is they can play different ways with different lineups.